Hey, welcome to The Beginner's Guide. I'm Tygus, this is my wife Erin.
Hey guys!
So, I'm back for another narrative story game.
Yay!
This reminds, well, actually there's another game that reminded me of this because it had the songs from this game and, I'm going to get my controller, and it had a very similar playthrough. So I'm like, you know what? I haven't played The Beginner's Guide in a long time.
Thank you very much for playing The Beginner's Guide. My name is Davey Reedon. I wrote The Stanley Parable, and while that game tells a pretty absurd story, today I'm going to tell you about a series of events that happened between 2008 and 2011. We're going to look at the games made by a friend of mine named Coda. Now these games mean a lot to me. I met Coda in early 2009 at a time when I was really struggling with some personal stuff, and his work pointed me in a very powerful direction. I found it to be a good reference point for the kinds of creative works that I wanted to make. So just to start you off, this is, I think, the first game he ever made. It's a level for Counter-Strike. You can walk around here, by the way. And mostly it's just Coda learning the basics of building a 3D environment. But what I like is that even though he starts from the simple aesthetic of a desert town, he then scatters these colorful abstract blobs and impossible floating crates around the level. And of course, it destroys the illusion that this actually is a desert town, and instead this level becomes a kind of calling card from its creator. It's like a reminder that this video game was constructed by a real person. And it kind of makes you wonder, what was going through his head as he was building this? This is what I like about all of Coda's games. I mean, not that they're all fascinating as games, but that they are all going to give us access to their creator. I want us to see past the games themselves. I want to get to know who this human being really is. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. So, it's 2008, Coda starts making these games, and he never releases any of them. He doesn't put them onto the internet, he just makes them and then immediately abandons them, and they sit on his computer forever. And I think he really understood this image of himself as a recluse. At one point, he jokingly renamed his computer's recycling bin to Important Games Folder. So, you know, this was just how he worked. He tended to crank them out one after the other without even really pausing to try to understand what he had just made, until suddenly one day, he just stopped. In 2011, that was it. He made his last game, and then he hasn't made another one since. And that's why I've taken this opportunity to gather all of his work together, is because I find his games powerful and interesting, and I'd like this collection to reach him, to maybe encourage him to start creating again. And if the people like you who play this also happen to find his work interesting, then I'm sure it'll just send that much stronger of a message of encouragement to Coda. So thanks for joining me on this. If you have a particular interpretation that I haven't mentioned here, or if you just need to get in touch, you can email me at daveyWreden@gmail.com. Okay, that's about it for introduction. Let's take a look at Coda's first proper game. As each game is loading, I'll show you the date that it was completed. This first one was made in November 2008.
So, the funny thing is, Whisper Machine, status active.
How do we
This
evacuate?
game is called Escape from Whisper, and it's one of the more generic games
Cool.
you'll see from Coda.
I have a rifle. I like the non-existent fire. But that's, yeah. This is cool.
Security call breached. Hostile alien life form inbound.
It kind of looks like this game was abandoned mid-development. For instance, you have this gun, which you'd think would indicate that there are supposed to be monsters or enemies somewhere, but then clearly there are no enemies anywhere. You can't even reload the gun when you run out of bullets. But ultimately we don't really know. Maybe Coda thought that actually it was complete the way that it is. And I think that we should talk about his games for what they are, rather than for what they're not.
Enemy force
Oh,
neutralized.
I need to go over here. This
I
is,
love how you can see
ooh,
the
I
bottom
love
of
this.
the universe from this room.
Ooh, pretty.
I love the star background.
Apparently, this space station has a labyrinth on it. Sure, I don't know. There's really no reason for it that I've ever been able to discern, so in the interest of time, I'm just gonna skip you on past it. Okay, this is the part that's interesting. The game has this narrative about the whisper machine and how it has to be turned off, and then you get to the engine room.
Hey, you there, in the engine room. You could save us all. That beam is powering the whisper machine. We could disrupt it by introducing a great enough heat signature. If your body could stop the beam. It's so much to ask, but for all of our lives, would you do it? Could you give yourself?
Yes.
I guess so.
Let me pause here for a second. What you just experienced, stepping into the beam and then dying, is probably what Coda had initially intended when he was developing this level. But when he first compiles and plays it, something goes wrong. There's a bug somewhere. And this is what happens instead.
It's so trippy. It lifts you out into space.
Oh.
I love the stellar background.
The beam causes you to start floating. And this is an important moment for him. Because yes, this is technically a glitch, but Coda identifies something human about it. Like how small it makes you feel in the face of this larger chaotic system. Or this floating could be the afterlife, a peaceful place, juxtaposed against all of the hysteria that you've just had to traverse. I don't even know. I have no idea what he was thinking, but what's clear is that after making this, something lodges itself in his brain. He wants to do more of these really weird and experimental designs. So he stops work on this and moves on to a stream of tiny little games that go in all sorts of directions. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first game he made after leaving this one behind.
You can see the where the skybox merges with the floor. Okay, I can't move. Oh,
Yep, in this game you can only walk backwards.
the past was behind her. Behind who? But the future
so
cannot
it's a
be
short
seen.
and relatively minimalist experiment combining motion
Why
and
does the
narrative.
future keep changing?
It is less advanced than the previous game, but actually it seems to be more focused, more complete.
When
Coda's
she
trying
stops
to give
and
it a
looks, it
unique
becomes
voice
clearer.
rather than simply basing it on a pre-existing trope.
But the future is always behind her.
Interesting.
How will she find the strength to confront it?
It's a short little thought, it says what it wants to say, and then it ends. Didn't need anything more than that. Which to me is why it works, because it gets out quick. Okay, next one.
That was an interesting concept.
It's dark.
Oh, it's really dark. You are now entering. I like how our light cone is basically just like 3 meters in front of us, or around us. Oh,
And that's it. Okay, the meaning of this game won't be clear just yet. Please be patient with me for a few more games, and I promise you'll see what makes it interesting.
Okay.
Oftentimes, Coda would
nonsense
put
in your
bizarre
direction.
titles like this one at the start of his games. I wish I'd known him at the time that he was making these early games. He would really only talk to me about his work as he was making it. Once he stopped work on a game, like, that was it. It was dead to him. And I don't agree with that at all, but what are you gonna do?
I guess that's fair.
It's getting slower. Yeah, it's true. When
Once
you
you've been slowed to an absolute crawl,
when you lose the ability.
door at the top of the stairs opens. So why, if Coda's not showing these games to anyone, why bother opening the door at all? Well, to show you, I'm modifying the game here so that when you press enter, it'll bring you back up to full speed so you can enter the door for yourself.
I was thinking, can you read me some Sisyphus
Oh, yeah.
type metaphor going on? Stand on An X staring at a bear for 3 hours. Oh, I can't read all of these. You are a gate. A series of lavish manuals come with the game giving you incorrect instructions on how to play.
That's warm and nice and filled with little ideas for games.
A button you press to stop the chaos that doesn't work. Press U to surrender. Play as the
Coda would
camera
often
filming an
tell me that
advertisement.
He didn't mind if people thought of him as cold or distant. He said that he knew that he was actually a vibrant and compassionate person, but that it takes time to really see that. It can be a very slow climb to get there.
You run a shop inside your own body, selling your organs strategically to make the most money before you die. You hear... Oh, I was about to read a really interesting one. Ready, set, fish.
Actually fishing?
Probably not. This is a very cold and dank place.
Well, this is new for Coda. It's an actual puzzle. Go ahead and see if you can solve it.
It's a button, okay? But I'm sure there's more to it.
It's dark.
Okay. I like the fog. I'm assuming there's not a switch in here. Oh, okay. Here we go.
Don't forget that solution, because we're going to see this puzzle again soon.
That was pretty cool.
We're going to see it a lot.
Yeah, just close the door so you can find the path out. That's kind of neat.
I like the lighting style in this
So
one.
that seems to be
I want lights
right.
like this in our place.
You walk down a corridor, you solve a puzzle, you get to the end. Simple enough. Alright, now I'm going to modify the game again, so that when you press enter, it'll remove all of the walls from this room.
Holy shit.
That's really random.
How
Now,
about that? There was more to it than we had any way of knowing. I actually find it funny that this game comes after the Stairs game, since they essentially convey the opposite idea. So, in the Stairs game, a dull exterior concealed a rich interior. And then, in this level, a dull interior hides this fantastic outer world.
this is
Either
insane.
way, I think that the point is the same. Is that most of the time, you don't get to know what you're missing. Or even that you're missing anything. That's not your role as a player. So if your role here is not to understand, then what is it?
Just to experience, I guess.
That was insane. You are now exiting.
Aha! So, this, combined with the entering game from earlier, tells us that Coda believes his games are connected somehow. It could even be that the Stairs game and the puzzle game are literally connected in between this and the entering game. There's a bigger picture that all of his games are meant to play a role in, some larger meaning that we won't be able to grasp until we've seen all of them. And once we have, we can step back and start to understand what exactly that bigger picture is.
March 2009. The Great and Lovely Descent.
Uh-oh. Whoa.
There is nothing but the house.
The floor looks cool, though.
Let's talk about video game development for a second. Every video game runs on what's called an engine, which determines what the game can and cannot do. So in other words, the engine is a set of tools for game
Streetwise fool.
development. To make all of these games, Coda is using an engine called Source. Like all engines, Source has certain things that it does well, and it has certain things that it does poorly. One of the things that it does very well is boxy linear corridors. That's why so many of Coda's games are set in these large, flat, empty rooms, is just because he's working with what the engine does well.
Oh. There's the stairs.
The tools available to the creator shape what kinds of creative work they're going to end up making. You might consider paying attention to the architecture in Coda's games, to notice how they seem to stem from an engine that's very good at producing linear, boxy corridors.
That was a very specific thing to say.
Yeah. We are bouncing on the boxes.
Oh, shit balls.
Oh god.
Oh, shit.
We're falling forever. We're good.
Oh, that was on purpose. Oh. Interesting. This is very detailed. I commend him for this level of detail because this is incredible and must have required an awful lot of patience.
What are these?
It looks like pens. Jail cells, pens. Oh. We're a prisoner.
Oh god.
Oh, no, we're being elevated.
Interesting. Where are we going?
Into jail.
This prison, funny enough, in Coda's original design, the doors stayed shut for a full hour before letting you go. If you don't mind, I think we're gonna skip that.
Yeah.
This is something that he and I used to argue about a lot. You know, whether a game ought to actually be playable, whether it means anything if no one can get through it. And I would always defend that, you know, all this work goes into the game, why not make it playable and accessible? And so we just got into heated arguments over it, and there was one time that after one of these conversations, he went home, and a day or two later, he sent me a zip file entitled Playable Games that was full of hundreds of individual games, each of which was just an empty box that you walked around in and nothing else. Believe me, I played every single one of those just to find out if there was like a gag hidden somewhere. There wasn't.
Oh, that'd be brutal. This is very intricate.
It's the puzzle again, with the exact same solution as the last time. There's still no clear indication of what makes this puzzle so special that Coda is going to return to it over and over. But I promise I'll share with you my interpretation very shortly.
I love the music.
Mm-hmm.
I'm prancing. Skipping down the hall.
You are a beautiful and delicate flower.
Oh. You there. Did you come from up above?
Here, Coda
What was up
begins
there?
using a kind of dialogue system that he fashioned out of the engine's chat capabilities. Use the 1, 2, 3 buttons on your keyboard to respond.
Yes, there are these floating colored blocks. That's the world above! You've been there! Now this is important. Did you have to go through a puzzle with 2 doors and switches? Yes, I did. That was literally the last thing I did before coming here. Perfect! Please tell us how you solved it. Tell us the solution. Tell us how to get to the other side. Oh, do we want to say we don't remember, we didn't solve it, or trust me, you don't want to go there?
I don't know. Pick a random number.
Trust me, you don't want to go over there. But I do. We do. We need to get there. Do you understand? It is the most important thing in the world. We have to escape this prison. There must be an ending. I promise you, there's nothing I want more.
We're just gonna leave them there.
Hello. Ooh. How did you get here? Was there a puzzle you had to pass through? Yes. Do you want to know how to solve it? No, we actually find the black space between the doors to be far more interesting. Have you seen it yet? Actually, now that you mention it, I remember feeling strange as I passed through it. Don't think too hard about it.
Okay.
He's like, there's a book. You'll see it soon. This is a
And
very...
so we make one last descent down to the final floor of the level.
This is a very emotive game.
Ooh. There's crickets.
This light is beautiful.
It's a lamppost. Okay, I can't tell you quite why, but for some reason Coda fixates on this lamppost. It's going to appear at the end of every single one of his games from here on out. I'll tell you what I think. I think that up to this point, He's been making really strange and abstract games with no clear purpose, and maybe you can only float around in that headspace for so long. Because now he wants something to hold on to. He wants a reference point. He wants the work to be leading to something. He wants a destination, which is what this lamppost is. It's a destination. We're going to see it in the work as well. His games are just going to become a lot more cohesive, a lot more fully developed, with more of a clear idea behind them. And as we go, that idea will get clearer and clearer and clearer.
That was an interesting chapter. So we're going to leave it here. We'll continue this map or this level in this game in the next episode. It's a very, the music adds a lot of atmosphere to it, and then it starts to get a little bit meta with itself. Actually, it's very meta with itself. But I like it. I love the theory behind it.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept.
It's very experimental, which is, I love experimental content. And I love the design that went into this, because it does show, it's not just a square room with some back detail. It actually has shape and texture to it that creates a lot more of an environment than you might otherwise expect. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, give us a like, and subscribe, and a comment, and thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.